Hey and welcome back to another Darkfall tutorial. Today we're going to be creating a diamond ring, as you can see in the example here. If you're rendering this out as an animation, bear in mind it might take some time to render it out. It took me like 8 hours, 9 hours something to render out the small animation you saw there. So the first thing we want to do is add a torus and then rotate it so it's facing the front. Scale this up and then let's align the camera. So I'm just going to grab the camera like this, and this is just going to be the starting position. We'll come back and refine the camera later on. Tap into edit mode, and if we press Alt S we can scale the thickness of this ring. Just want to scale it down a little bit, something like this. Now we're going to need something to hold the diamond, so Shift A, I'm going to add in UV sphere. Let's just drag this up here, something like this. And then if we press numpad 1 to go into front view, and then numpad 5 to go into orthographic, it might help. Scale this on the Z axis, and then scale it down. Move it down a little bit. So let's select this top vertex here, and then press Ctrl numpad plus a few times. Increase the selection, maybe one more time. Then press X and delete the faces. Now I want to select this top ring. In fact, let's change it to vertex select. Select this top ring by pressing Alt and right click. And if we hit Alt to enable proportional editing, we can scale this down and it'll look a little bit better. If we extrude it, we're going to make sure you turn off proportional editing so you can move it around without moving everything else. So I'm just going to add a little ridge to this now. Something like that. So Shift A, and we're going to go ahead and add in a diamond. So Blender's actually, somebody from Blender has made one for us. You just need to go to extras. If you don't have this already activated, you can go to File, User Preferences, then go to Add-ons, type in Extra. As we can see here, Add Mesh Extra Objects. So I'm not sure who made this. It says multiple authors, so to whoever made this, thanks. It's a very, very useful add-on to have. So make sure you save that. So now we press Shift A, and we go to Mesh, and then we go down. We have this extras, and we have a lot of different extra objects here which are really, really good to use and can be used to create other things. I'm just going to use diamonds for now. So make sure you don't move the diamond itself, just otherwise you lose the operator here. So make sure the diamond stays where it is for now until we finish with it. So as you can see with this this segments here shows how refined it looks. So if we increase the segments, it looks more refined. But I want this to be more of a square diamond, so maybe let's just enter this manually. Let's say maybe 16 should look good. Now this table here is the top circle, so if we increase this, the radius becomes wider or narrower, depends on what you want. And this is the height of it, so this top part. So again, this is all entirely up to you. I'm not a diamond expert, so how it should look is pretty much your choice, how you think it should look. I think adding this girdle and real girdle looks pretty good. Smooth, I'm not sure what that does, it doesn't look like it changes anything. We can increase this point here, this makes it longer. So this point increases the bendiness of the top part. I don't know how to explain it. It's terrible explaining this. Yeah, sorry for the bad explanations, but you just play around with these values until you find something you're happy with. What I do want it is to sort of like plateau this part off here, so it's quite flat, and just move this like so. And the reason I've done that is so the point doesn't stick out the ring, so it saves us a job of deleting the faces. I also want to check this button here because it retains the angle, I guess. I don't know, it just makes it look a little bit better. So what you can do is you go ahead and press the plus button and save this off now. If you want to create multiple diamonds, it's good to make a few different ones and then go with one that you're happy with. So if you want to save that, you can always bring that them settings back. But I'm happy with this, so I'm going to go ahead and position the diamond. Bring it up here. I want to scale this down on the Z first. So this little holder, scale it on the Z. Move it down. Then maybe scale it a bit more. So this probably would help if you had reference images or even a background image so you could copy something. I mean, I like to do a lot of things from off the top of my head since, I don't know, I'm probably lazy. I'd like to say it's creative, but it's more like I'm lazy. But I like to, yeah, make something from scratch. So with the ring selected, I want to select this top vertex here and sort of drag it up so it gives it a bit more shape. In fact, let's select a few of these vertices. Select a couple more. And I want to drag this up, but make sure proportional editing is turned on by pressing O. So we can scroll down the mouse wheel and drag this up a little bit. Gives it a bit more shape to it. Looks a little bit better. Tab back into it. I'm going to scale it on the X just to pinch it in a little. Something like that. Okay, let's bring back the diamond by pressing Alt H. And I want to add a few little grippy things. I don't know how to explain it. A few little metal things that poke out. So let's go into top view by pressing numpad 7. And let's hide this diamond again by pressing H. Select this diamond holder, tab into edit mode. And I want to select a couple of these faces. So let's select these two. And these two. And also these. Because what I want to do is extrude it. So we press E to extrude. And I've noticed the proportional editing is still turned on, so make sure you turn that off before you drag it. Then we can drag it up on the Z, and then press S to scale it a little bit. Now if we press Alt H to unhide the diamond, we can see that it looks a little bit better now. It's holding it in place. Again, let's change this. We want to change the pivot point to individual origins. So now when we press S and then X, we can scale this down. And then we want to press S and then Y and do the same thing for the other side. But we want to make sure we're looking at it before we scale this. So Control Z, then S, Y. And that looks a little bit better. I will come back and refine these later on. This is just to give you an idea how to get things started. How it looks is entirely up to you. I mean, I would suggest making something that looks a lot better than this. Again, maybe use a reference image. That probably would help a lot. Just scale that down. So yeah, this ring, I'm not happy with it. Let's press Alt S. See, now it's doing this because we changed the origin point, or the pivot point. So let's just change the pivot point back. There we go. So now when we press Alt S, we can scale this down. Just want to scale it. That's probably looking way too thick, so let's scale this down. Again, a reference image would definitely help show you the scaling of things. Let's just select this one. I'm not happy with this shape, so I'm going to select this ring here and then press S. And make sure you turn on proportional editing and then press S. Helps scaling things better. Scale this as well. That's pretty much all it is, just scaling it until you find something that you're happy with. Again, I will come back and refine all this later on. I want to scale this back down because this looks way too thick. So Alt S and then scale it down. Yeah, it looks much better. Now let's smooth the ring and also smooth the ring holder. And then let's give this a subdivision surface modifier. So go to modifiers, down to subsurf modifier. See what it looks like on 2. We also want to add in an edge split. And you can't really notice at this distance. Let's just add an edge split. And the more we increase or decrease this split angle, makes it sharper or smoother. So I'm just scrolling so you can see this. Right on the tips here, you can see right now it's sharp and then smooth. So it depends how you want it. It depends on the angle. So make sure you don't smooth the diamond because we want to keep that flat so the angles looks nice. Otherwise it kind of ruins it. Okay, so make sure you save that as well. I want to append in a couple of shaders I've already created. So this first one's going to be a diamond shader, and again you can download this project file. There'll be a link in the description, so all these shaders will be available for you to use. Let's append in the other one. We're going to append in a metal one. This one I made by following a tutorial by Andrew Price. I'll also leave a link. I'll throw a link up so you can go ahead and watch that. I'd recommend watching them because it's very useful tutorials to watch. So let's just name this diamond. Let's delete this diffuse. I'm going to Shift A, go down to group. I'm going to add in the diamond shader. And again, if you want to find out how I made this diamond shader, there'll be a tutorial. There's a link at the top. You can go and check that out. So we go to rendered view. We can see, well, the samples are really quite low. So if we increase the samples, it'll look a little bit better. Increase preview samples to say 200 for now. We can see it stops looking a bit. Right now it looks a little bit purple, but as the samples increase, we see it looks more see-through. So it's a pretty simple shader. Let's just turn this back off. So we speed things back up. Pretty simple. I'll tab into it so I'll show you what it is. It's just a few glass shaders that are mixed and added together. If you want to give this a little bit of a tint, a lot of diamonds have a very tint of a colour, so depending on what diamond you want to create or what colour you want to go for, just give that a little bit of a tint. The roughness, again, I'm not sure how much roughness I'm going to give it right now, so I'll just leave it off until later on. Let's go ahead and add the other shader. And the PBR metal shader. Again, you can follow how this one was made by going to the link at the top. Okay, so I've got a whole bunch of colours we can choose, but I think I'm going to have a silver ring. So let's just select this, let's pull this silver one out, plug that into the metal colour. And then we want to give this highlight. Again, the highlights, you can use a real world value, but I prefer to have a little bit more license with it, so I'm going to give it a bit of a blue colour. So now let's give the ring the same material. Okay, so same thing for the roughness. I'm not sure if I'm going to give it any roughness right now. I'll do a few test renders and see how it looks, and then I'll come back later on and show you the values that I used. So what I need to do is add an empty, Shift A, go to empty. You can use any one of these that you want. I'm going to add a plane axis and scale this up. Then I want to apply the scale. Now if we select the ring objects and then select the empty and then hit Control P, we can set this as a parent. So what I'll do now is I'm going to speed up the next part, just add in a few little background objects to fill the scene, and I'll get back when I've finished. Okay, so I added a few different objects. I added a lamp, a sun lamp, just to give some shadows to the floor. I also added another empty, and this is to control the focus of the camera. So I Shift A, added an empty, then I selected the camera, then go to camera properties, and then down under depth of field, I chose the empty as the focus, changed that to f-stop. And the lower you set this number to, the more blurred the surrounding edges is going to be. So I set that to 0.9. I also animated the empty and also animated the camera. So I'll just show you what I did. I started this frame here, pressed I, added a location for the empty. Then I jumped ahead, moved the empty to where the text is, and then I, location. Pretty much the same thing with the camera. I started here, pressed I, but this time I had location rotation, and then jumped a few frames forward, and then just moved the camera to a different position, and then pressed I, location rotation, since I did the rotation as well. And then that's pretty much all that was. Pretty simple. And then for the settings, what I did is I also added some motion blur. So down under render settings, down under motion blur. This works opposite of the depth of field, so the more you increase this number, the more blurry the object is going to be. But since it's not moving that much, it's not that big of a deal. I also set the fall off type to be smooth, but you can set any one of these that you want. Just set that back to smooth. The samples, 250 is okay. I'd like to have a lot more, but since I'm going to be rendering this out as an animation, I don't think I'm going to be using, I'll probably use 200. Also the light paths, I increased the glossy to 12. I also got rid of reflective and refractive caustics to speed things up. So yeah, this is the render. So when I press render, it took like 13 minutes to render a single frame. Switch this to the node editor. Zoom this out so you can see everything. And then if we select this one here, show you the final composite. It takes a little while since all the couple of glows. But yeah, that's the final composite. So I'll just break down and show you what I used. This here is a despeckle, so it got rid of a lot of the fireflies, a lot of the noise. I'll just isolate this start off one and show you the improvements. So then I added a despeckle, got rid of a bit of the noise. Then I added a soften, which helps, especially when you've got low samples, helps things look a little bit better. Then I added RGB curves. I did a little curve here as well. I'll show you what it does. Just brightens things up a little bit. Then I added a glare node and changed it to fog glow. And things start to slow down now, especially with the compositing, since we've just added a glow. Especially with this second one as well. But I'll just show you the first one. I changed it to fog glow. I kept it as medium, and these are the values that I used. If you want to copy this. Again, I'd suggest using different values, something that suits you, but go ahead and use these ones. I duplicated the node and then changed it to streaks, so we could add a couple of streaks there. And then just change a few of these settings, like the iterations, the color mode, just a few other little things. Also, you notice this angle here has been keyframed, and I'll show you in a second. So we just jumped to where the camera starts, and what I did is just add a keyframe in the angle offset at 0. So as we jump through this, we can see that the streaks move just ever so slightly as the camera slowly moves. So otherwise it stayed still and it just it didn't look right. Jump to where the camera starts to move, add a keyframe, jump to the end, add a keyframe. It's pretty simple to do. Then I added colour balance. Again, how you do your colour balance is up to you, the colours you use. See, I went for a bit of a blue touch to it. If we wait for this to catch up. Then finally just added a vignette. So just add focus to the middle of the scene. Since we've got two glare nodes, things slow down a little bit more. But yeah, bearing in mind if you're rendering this as an animation, you're going to want to probably change a few settings. Like I'm going to change this now to something smaller. So if I just jump back to the UV image editor, we see it took 13 minutes just to render this single image. So I wanted to, so I'm going to need to do a few things before I can render out my animation. So let's reduce this resolution here, change this to 720. This will save us a little bit of time, but I think it's still going to be like 3 minutes per frame. So probably going to be about 8 hours at least, maybe more depending on how many frames you want to use. So normally when I render out small animations I use H.264, but since this is going to take all night to render, I'm going to render this out as an image sequence. So let's just set the folder where it's going to be. Make sure you set an empty folder and go ahead and animate. So yeah, if you want to render this out as an animation, it will take quite a while depending on how your computer is. My computer is quite bad, so maybe that's why it took so long. But yeah, hopefully this tutorial helped. If it did, be sure to give it a like. And as always, thanks for watching.